Am I the asshole for canceling my credit card after my boyfriend refused to return it to me? I'll preface by saying that me, 27, and my boyfriend, 30, have been together for 3 years and a half. I've been jumping from one job to another while he has been unemployed due to health issues that affected his performance at work. Usually, I'm the one handling rent, bills, groceries, etc. I use my credit card to make any purchase I want. Last week, my boyfriend out of nowhere asked for my credit card. I asked why, since I'm the one who handles payments and supermarket trips. He told me he wanted to buy some food and I agreed to let him take it but told him to return it later. He got back later and when I asked about my credit card, he was like, "What credit card?" I thought he was joking so I told him to just give it back. He said he'd just keep it with him. I asked why and he said so he could start handling paying for stuff on my behalf. I felt uncomfortable. I said I'd rather not burden him with this stuff and asked him to hand over the credit card. He refused and said that he'll just keep it, since it doesn't have that much money anyway. I was livid. I tried to argue but he told me to just trust him, and let him keep it and swore he won't spend a penny from it. Next morning I went and cancelled it, then registered a new one. He must have had tried to use it because he called and was confused asking why the credit card was not valid anymore. I told him it's because I cancelled it and registered a new one. He lost it and started scolding me saying he couldn't believe I had this level of petty and kept on about how I don't trust him with my finances. And how financially abusive I have become lately. I hung up on him. The argument continued at home and he called me paranoid and unreasonable and all that. Then he started cold shouldering me and sulking about it for days. I do feel like I hurt his feelings and showed an amount of distrust towards him. Am I the asshole for canceling the credit card? Edit, adding in some info. Like I said, he has a physical disability that limits his opportunities for work. He receives no disability benefits because he doesn't want to. He refuses to acknowledge he has a disability and pretends that it doesn't exist at all. When I tell him to look for a job, he'd blame people for purposely refusing to employ him and say that they look down on him like he's lacking or beneath them. He comes from a humble background. No longer has contact with family due to abandonment issues but has some friends to lean on. Since someone asked, the answer is I do almost 80% of chores while he does the other 20%. Reasons for that is his disability. Finally, I pay for rent, bills, groceries, his meds and transportation as well, so I needed the card to he constantly with me. Not the asshole. He swore he won't spend a penny from it, followed by the next day he must have had tried to use it. Your instincts were excellent, as was your decisive and immediate action. You know what he wanted was wrong. Trust yourself. This right there. Then has the nerve to call her financially abusive. He's using her and leeching. Gaslighting 101. That's not gaslighting, it's classic Darvo. What credit card? That was an attempt at gaslighting. He tried to make original poster question and doubt her own observations and experiences in order to manipulate the situation so he could keep the card. It was a pretty weak attempt, but gaslighting nonetheless. Not the asshole. Maybe time to cancel your boyfriend as well. I wish Reddit wasn't so divorce happy because it really takes away from situation like this where the only reasonable answer is to actually break up. This would be such a deal breaker for me. To be fair, that can't work because disability, but still refuses to acknowledge disability and get benefits for it, thing would have been a deal breaker for me in the first place. But taking your credit card and refusing to give it back when asked is so disrespectful. I could never trust him again. If your marriage in such a state that you have to turn to Reddit, it's almost always over anyway. Seriously. Sometimes I may have issues with my partner but not to the level where I need a sanity check from strangers. The last time that happened with me it was like, so my boyfriend blocked me in. Was it okay for me to yell at him to leave me alone? I don't want to be abusive. I was thankful that people in my life went what a fuck. I didn't realize it was this bad. Sometimes people's sense of normal is broken down so bad. He found out you cancelled it because he tried to use it even though he promised he wouldn't, but you're the paranoid one, right? Not the asshole. He's definitely gaslighting you too. How is he not an asshole? Not the asshole. Trust. He has no business mentioning trust after literally stealing your credit card ___ and ___ trying to use it. Yes. He took this as in I don't trust him, but it's not about that. You shouldn't trust him. I don't think I've ever seen such a toxic, unhealthy person in this sub. Please, run, and get back to us so we stop worrying about you. Original poster. Also beware. Since he isn't working, that means he can get to the mail first and take the replacement card when it arrives. this. And lock your credit files. He might be shadier than you think. Greater than swore he won't spend a penny from it. Shocked Pikachu when he tried to spend money on it again and couldn't. Greater than the argument continued at home and he called me paranoid and unreasonable and all that. You are not unreasonable for wanting your credit card back and canceling it when he refused to give it back. It doesn't matter that he swore he wouldn't spend more on it. It wouldn't even have mattered if he didn't spend more on it. It is not his. Greater than then he started cold shouldering me and sulking about it gore days. That, my friend, is a guilt trip. He is making this all about you harming him by not trusting him when you busted him literally doing something he swore he wouldn't do. He even ratted himself out, which he didn't have to do, which means it was not a fluke, but rather he intended on spending more than you expected on your card and probably quite often. Not the asshole. Honestly, I found it strange that GE wanted to keep the credit card. He's never even touched it before. I keep telling him to get a job, but his answer is to claim that I'm being selfish and unconsiderate of his physical disability. He may be right, but I know people who are dealing with worse conditions but still manage to work. Your ex-boyfriend, right? Please say yes. Not the asshole, but I really hope you evaluate your relationship. This is definitely grounds for separation. He's gaslighting you by claiming you're financially abusing him. He is using you and then throwing a fit when you cut off his resources, since apparently he's a lazy bum who is draining you. He contributes what to your life? Does he help around the house or have a side hustle to help pay bills? Sounds like he is just leeching off you. Let me make a list. A. He can't bring in money due to lack of employment caused by his physical disability. B. He does some things around the house but nothing compared to what I do. Again, his physical disability gets in the way. C. He has no contact with family due to abandonment issues he dealt with even in adulthood. He only has 3 close friends and that's it. D. He has a number of mental health issues and it's always affected our relationship. C. I also pay for his medication. He needs to be on disability as it doesn't sound like he contributes much. What are you talking about? He is in disability original poster as the disability check. Not the asshole. He stole your card and wouldn't have known it was cancelled unless he broke his word and tried to use it a day after he said he wouldn't. Dump him, he is clearly untrustworthy. It also sounds like he's making no effort to get better. You don't need the anchor to weigh you down. That's what jumped out at me, too. I won't use it, just trust me. Why isn't the card working? Lying waste of space. Greater than last week, my boyfriend out of nowhere asked for my credit card. I asked why, since I'm the one who handles payments and supermarket trips. He told me he wanted to buy some food and I agreed to let him take it but told him to return it later. Greater than he got back later and when I asked about my credit card, he was like, "What credit card? He stole your card." Greater than he said he just keep it with him. I asked why and he said so he could start handling paying for stuff on my behalf. I felt uncomfortable because you are a grown woman who can do her own shopping. Greater than next morning I went and cancelled it. Then registered a new one. He must have had tried to use it because he called and was confused asking why the credit card was not valid anymore. I told him it's because I cancelled it and registered a new one. He lost it and started scolding me saying he couldn't believe I had this level of petty and kept on about how I don't trust him with my finances. He says this after refusing to return your credit card? Greater than then he started cold shouldering me and sulking about it gore days. You should give him the cold shoulder forever. Kick him out and break up. Not the asshole. Not the asshole. Pay attention to this red flag original poster. He lied, gaslit you and will continue to manipulate and abuse you. You did the right thing by canceling the card. Agreed. This problem isn't solved just because she canceled the card. This is still a huge problem. He thinks he's entitled to her money without her control. He thinks he's entitled to go over her head regarding her own property. This is abusive behavior. Not the asshole. First of all, one of the bank's rules is that you do not permit others to share your card. If you do, they will not protect you from theft. Withholding your property from you is theft. It's clear to me he feels entitled to your property. Drop him like a hot rock. Greater than say he could start handling paying for stuff on my behalf. So he's unburdening you by making you still pay except without being able to authorize or approve anything first. Obviously you're not the asshole because he did try to use it without your approval. You don't trust him because you didn't trust him. This is deal breaker territory. Not the asshole, and why you're still with this guy is a mystery to me.